Scars Above is a future sci-fi Souls-like that I should not be enjoying as much as I am. I've played through the first 3 chapters, and while it might not be the prettiest, the combat isn't always the best, and the story has been a little bit derivative, I'm having a pretty great time while playing it. Why is a giant alien spaceship hovering over Earth? Where do you wake up after interacting with it? And just what the heck is going on? There's lots of neat things, so let's break down the early part of this game in the XboxEra preview of Scars Above. I gotta admit, I am starting to get a bit of Souls-like fatigue. It's no different in this competent third-person action RPG. You are a young scientist aboard a ship in the future. You head out into low Earth orbit to scan an alien spacecraft that has come to Earth with no signs of communication. Things go sideways and you wake up alone on a planet with breathable air and lots of enemies that want to kill you. You'll work to find your crewmates, figure out what the hell is going on, and get real good at slaughtering the local wildlife in the process. The Souls-like part of the game is the fact that there are no automatic checkpoints. When you die, you get sent back to the last alien pillar, which is where you can save. Thankfully, you don't appear to lose anything for dying, other than your time. Any door or paths you unlock stay open, but enemies will respawn whenever you save or die. The Souls games use this as part of their progression, learning from death. Combat in this game is far more basic and focused almost entirely on shooting and gadget use. You do have a melee attack that you can use to take out fodder around you, but for every major enemy you'll have to swap between your scientific tool-turned-weapon, Vera, as you attack enemy weak points. Vera has 4 major damage types: energy, fire, ice, and poison. You'll quickly unlock each along with a plethora of gadgets. You have a healing injector that recharges at checkpoints, another heal which you can craft by spending the game's only currency, shields, status effects clearing items, and more. To power these items, you will need to find fiber in the environment, with which you can craft things on the fly. Some gadgets like the shield operate on battery power, and that either replenishes at a checkpoint, or you can use fiber to craft a recharge. Combat itself is fast-paced and in the perfectly fine camp. The creature variety has been decent so far, though the reliance on jump scare style encounters has worn a bit thin. Most enemies are mindless creatures who just run at you. If you're in the rain, your energy and ice weapons are more effective and can combo for big damage a la Anthem. In the cold weather of Chapter 3, your fire ammo becomes key at both keeping you alive by setting plants on fire and breaking ice to drop foes into for an easy kill. I am playing on PC for this preview, and while it isn't the deepest or tightest feeling combat, I'm enjoying it quite a bit. The exploration, on the other hand, is lacking severely in comparison to the best in the genre. That exploration and the puzzle parts of the game are a mixed bag. I like the almost adventure game style point-and-click segments, but the amount of having to slowly move a cursor around and wait for the interact prompt to show up while waiting has been just far too frustrating. At certain times, the game will move to a locked camera and you get a cursor to interact with objects. Knowing exactly where to go for each interaction isn't always intuitive, and instead it becomes a hunt and peck type of setup. There is crafting in the game as well, but it's mostly just hold this button, though it is appreciated that I don't have to ever travel back anywhere to do it, I can just do it on the fly. The game works on a see your way through that is inaccessible, so go around and then unlock it system of opening up the map. See a bridge, but the controls are on the other side. You can expect to spend a few minutes fighting enemies in obvious combat arenas, and then loop around to those controls, permanently unlocking the shortcut. Where it has failed so far is in masking how obvious each path is. There's no jump button. Instead, it's either a roll or a clamber up at specific points. And this leads to a very basic and obvious pathing system that doesn't really encourage much in the way of exploration. There are upgrades to find, such as basic bonuses for your suit or weaponry, and purple knowledge cubes. The latter is your main way of leveling up and earning ability points. Those ability points can go into a plethora of stat increasing and ability unlocking items in a kind of ugly but readable UI. A lot of this game does feel ripped right out of the mid-2000s, but in a good way. The parts that don't are the music, which is fantastic, and the voice acting, which is far better than most games of this scope and budget tend to have. Getting back to the music, the highest compliment I can give is when a game reminds me of the first Mass Effect title, and the music in this one has repeatedly done so. It's well crafted, fits the alien environments and future storylines, and is matched by competent voice acting and writing that is really rare to see in a smaller game like this. Just the overall scope of this title is obvious from the get-go, because graphically it looks okay at times and really janky at others. Face textures and skyboxes just look off occasionally, with the latter having some surprisingly low resolution assets. The animations are decent, and not really because they're particularly good, but because they never get in the way of the gameplay. The environments are more of a mix of ugly swamps and decent looking vistas so far, but I like the overall art style. It's not a super pretty game, but it hasn't ever gotten in the way of enjoying the story and the gameplay yet. In conclusion, my first 3 or so hours with Scar Above has been a lot of fun. It is a lower budget future sci-fi action game with some clever mechanics and great music. Keep an eye on this site and we may have a review closer to its launch in February.